Hey everybody, this is Brandon Peterson for a tutorial, and today we're going to be learning a little bit about responsive design. And responsive design is a method that is used, starting to be really emphasized in web design right now, but it's a technique used to take all the content from a website that you would view on a desktop website on your computer, and it makes all that content available and viewable and readable and all that type of stuff, no matter what the device size. So if you had your computer hooked up to a TV, or you're viewing it on your desktop computer, or you're looking at it on a tablet or even a smartphone, you're still going to have all that content. So when people were using programs to help them make web pages, there most of the time there's a setting in a lot of them today that say, what kind of content do you want to make available for mobile devices, and you can pick and choose what you want, and it allows the content to be there, readable, but it's not always a good idea to choose, what information is available on a smartphone versus on a computer. And what if they need that information? Are they able to view it as a regular browser in a smaller device? It's some kind of things that can cause some problems. And so responsive design is a way of planning your website and putting it together smartly so that it can be adjusted no matter what the setting is that you're looking at the content. So we're not going to use any special program for this. As I mentioned, a lot of website builders have something that can automatically fix some of this for you, but you are kind of limited on what you can do with it. You have a lot more control and more things to play around with by looking at the actual code. So we're just going to use HTML and a CSS style sheet, and I'm going to show you just a real simple way of how we can do this. So right here we have just a basic website to be used, and this is just for the responsive design tutorial. So it's got the HTML, we have the head section right here, we have the body, and then you'll notice here is where we're going to be able to access our style sheet. And it's real simple. We just have a header with the name of the website. We have a couple of boxes that have some text and some images. And for the style sheet, it's very simple as well. We just have information for the body here, and for the banner, we have a fixed size for it, and the same for the boxes that we're using as well. So, and the text editor I'm using for this is called Notepad++, and this is a free version. Works really good. So I have my information here saved as index.html, and my style sheet is just called mystyle.css. If I go to index.html, and I'm going to go to run, and I'm going to say launch in Chrome, and it's going to open up my basic web page. So again, nothing fancy here, just to kind of illustrate what we have. And so if I have a website on full size, you get the idea of what the website can do, how it can be viewed. As I shrink that size down, however, it moves these margins on the side of the screen up to a point, and then if you get too small, the information's not there. So if I was looking at this on a smartphone, I'd have to scroll around. It would not be convenient. It wouldn't be a good web viewing experience for me, and it wouldn't be compelling enough for me to want to come back and never view again. It would be too much of a hassle. So, and like a lot of research is saying, a majority of web traffic is generated on mobile devices or on smart devices. And actually, a majority of websites, the first time they're viewed is on a smart device, and then later on people come back and view it on a desktop. So if this is a first impression lasting a lifetime and they go to that website, are they going to view it later? Probably not. It's not going to be a good experience. So I'm going to close out of this, and I'm going to show you just a few tricks of what we can do to make this a responsive web design. We're going to look at a couple tools. We'll talk about what it could be viewed on, and then we can see how to use these tools in different ways, and then we're going to look at a few other resources that are available as well. Okay, so this information here is all pretty much set for what we want to do right now. The majority of the work we're going to do for this tutorial comes in the My Style on the CSS sheet. So I'm going to look here, and this information up here is what's set. And what we're going to do is we are just going to put in a simple few lines of code here, which will adjust the content on the screen based on the size of the viewing window. Okay, so we have at media screen, and we have a max width of 500 pixels, and then we have our banner, and you'll notice I ID'd these different things as banner, box, and so forth. So banner, and for the H1 we have the font size will switch to 0.9 EM. So when we use EMs with text, it makes the font scalable. So that, you know, is a lot easier than using just a fixed font size or using pixels. And then for box 1, just the size of the area itself, we have the margin is 0 pixels. We have the width at 98%, height 400 pixels, background I have switched to white. You'll notice when we first viewed the website it was a gray, and I have it switched to white. And the reason why I did that is because sometimes people might have background images behind their content, and if the web page gets shrunk down too much, do you want to have to decide between having the website background image be shrunk smaller or not viewing the whole thing? So sometimes it's just as effective to take out the background image once the screen gets to a certain size and to make it a solid color, and it takes less of the distraction from the actual content on the page. And then just a small padding, 1%. And then we have the box 1 for the H2 for the text. We're going to say the font size at 0.9 EM. Okay, so I'm going to save this information onto my style sheet. And now I'm going to go back to my index, and I'm going to go up to Run, and I'm going to launch in Chrome. And so the web page to start off looks the same. We have the gray background, the title, and all this information. But you'll notice here, as we start to shrink down, once you get to a certain point, the gray goes away and the pictures leave, and the text will move out of the way of the pictures. And so if you shrink it down to the bottom, you know, to about as small as it can go, you can have your headings, your picture, and your text. Now this is one example of how to make the web page just a little bit more responsive, but you know, it's not perfect by any means. It's cutting off part of the pictures. As we get to this part, we're cutting off some of the text, you know, so that could be a problem. And again, once it gets to a certain point, these pictures are starting to get cut off. So another technique you can try, let me expand this back out and I will close down. And I'm done looking at the style sheet for this one, but if I look on here for the images, I have the name of the image sources. And then as I look at this for the width, it says 400 pixels. So I have a fixed size for my pictures. So what I can do for this is I can actually change this into a percentage. So let's say I switch it to 33.3%. And I will do the same down here. Alright, and now I'm going to go up to File and Save. And then if I go to Run and launch in Chrome, as I shrink down the image and it becomes smaller, once we get to this point, it scales down the picture. Alright, so maybe you want to use that for your web page, maybe you don't. A lot of this kind of is just a matter of you deciding how you want your website components to be fitting in. Sometimes you can use kind of a combination of these two strategies to make it fit down. And another thing you can do is you can play around with the sizes that we have the jump. So like here's the text and here's where everything gets smaller. You can play around adjusting that. Maybe it gradually shrinks down, or maybe it waits until it gets smaller, or maybe it shrinks down once you get to half the size of the screen. There's just a lot of ways that you can kind of play around with that, but this gives you, I think, enough to kind of play around with and to see how you can make it fit for your website, and see how you can make it responsive to make it a better viewing experience for mobile devices. So again, here it's shrunk down pretty good. I can still see the images. I have the text on the left, and that type of thing works a lot better than the initial design that I had for this. So that is just kind of a way to do responsive design. Now I wanted to show you a few other tools that you can use, and I have these here on this Word document. And so the first one is interfacessketch.com. If you're a paper and pencil kind of a person, this isn't really anything technical, but so much of this has to do with planning, and I think that gets overlooked a lot. Just the planning process going into building web pages, and sometimes people, myself included, just get excited about it and jump in and start trying to code it. But here they give you just some kind of various different templates that you can use. You can print them off and you can sketch them in, or you can import them into Photoshop, Illustrator, or whatever, and kind of play around with the different layouts. And it just is kind of a good planning tool for you to think about what you want your device to, or your content to look like on various devices. So I thought that was kind of a neat one to show. And again, that is at interfacessketch.com. And then another one we have on here is, I'm not sure if you call it Front or Froant.com, but when you go to this link, it is just another tool for making responsive web designs. And so you can kind of go into the information and look at the examples that they have. They have a lot of different components that you can use for your web page to make it more responsive. So Front or Froant looks like a pretty promising tool. Another one we have is called getskeleton.com. And as I open up this, just another set of tools that can kind of help you with making your website more responsive. And so there's a lot of good resources on this webpage that can help you with this. So I think that's worth taking a look at. And the last part, this is just another amount of work with HTML and CSS sheets. But this is from the Smashing Magazine. And if you just do a Google search for Smashing Magazine Fluid Typography, this is a great article of another type that you can use, where as the screen gets smaller, the font shrinks as well. And so they give you a really good technical example of how this works, and they give you some examples of pitfalls you may come across, but they also give you some ways to troubleshoot around it. So instead of having the screen get to a certain size and everything jumps to a smaller size, as the screen gets smaller, it gradually shrinks. So I think that could be a good feature too. The thing to look out for that would be, finding a way to make sure that your text doesn't get too small, because if you get to some of the phones and some of the smaller devices that are out there, are you going to be able to read the content? And so that's another interesting thing to try, and looks really cool. So I would highly recommend going to that site. And again, it's at smashingmagazine.com. And if you just go to Google and type in Smashing Magazine and type in fluid typography, then you can see that tutorial and look at those links for that. So again, this was examples for how to incorporate responsive design into your websites. You know, it makes your website available for any kind of format that you can imagine. So why just limit it to desktops if a majority of the people are viewing websites on their mobile devices? You know, this is like a one-size-fits-all approach to where you can, with planning and some creativity in your how you do your coding and whatnot, how you can make your website all fit no matter what the size of the screen or the device. Again, this is another tutorial for TechBiz Tutorials, and thank you for your time and have a great day.